Hello and welcome to the Watson Weekend. I'm your host, Rick Watson, and this is your weekly dose of e-commerce entertainment. I'm here with my co-host here.
Hi, I'm Nick Kaplan, not Jess. I'm stepping in for Jess this week. I love that song. So super happy to be here.
I feel like did you have an argument with our producer Vinny? Like I feel like the show intro had a disclaimer on your photo. This photo is old.
Now every time I see
Were they
that photo,
talking about the photo?
I don't know. I mean, listen, we are not professionals at this. We are definitely showing that now, but we are definitely getting there slowly. We have an amazing show this week. I'm going to keep us on track today, so I'm going to go right into it. So
that's your role. We're going to go into the headline hangover. It's been a crazy week post-election.
I mean,
there's no hangover anymore. So we're in it now. We're all in it.
We are, but before we get in it, this is our second conversation of the week. I'm very excited. I do want to let everybody know that this show is sponsored by Channel Engine. They are bringing us this show today. We are in partnership with them. Last week, we had their incredible CEO, Jorrit, on the show. Some crazy knowledge was shared. And if you missed it, you can always check out our podcasts. They're on YouTube, or you can check out the audio only in the different channels. So with that, I will turn to you, my friend, and let's get into it. Some meaty topics today.
Awesome. We're excited. And again, thanks again to our friends at Channel Engine, Yordi, International Marketplaces galore. But we're going to get into the IPO discussion now. And your favorite and my topic, Klarna. They just filed for IPO. Why don't you take us through that, Nick?
I love Klarna. It's so funny. In talking to people about Klarna is a buy now, pay later solution that's not. Klarna is a affiliate. I mean, I look at Klarna and I look at what's happened inside of that market. You look at Afterpay, you look at Affirm and all the other solutions, and Klarna somehow, and while they've survived, I mean, while they have flirted with the IPO, and it pulled away, it seems to be here now. And so I think it's a good thing for them. I think the window is probably closing. I definitely think that there'll be more oversight on the whole buy now, pay later, how it's classed, and especially with all of the extremity that we appear to be in government. And
got it.
Talk about that another time.
You said the IPO window is closing. How could it close if it never opened?
I mean, I think the window has been open for them. They've talked about it for a while. I think they're finally going to do it. I went to a dinner a couple of years ago with the CEO, the CMO, some tech people. It was an amazing meal, by the way. But they put out a plan that I thought was a brilliant plan that really centered around the evolution of their product, but more so they're sort of thinking less about the payment solution and more about the customer and enabling brands to connect with consumers through their marketplace. And I thought that was a really incredible idea, right? This whole notion of peer-to-peer selling, of personalized experiences. I don't think they've delivered on it, by the way, but for anybody that I've worked with and consult, Klarna is a massive affiliate partner. And so good for them.
Yeah. And speaking of everything that has not worked, our next story up, StockX, their COO now has taken over as CEO. It seems like Nike had a big problem with wholesale and accelerating technology over taking care of the consumer. StockX recently made some changes internally. And one of the quotes that really caught my eye that I wanted to chat with you about for a few moments is they said that resale doesn't work outside of sneakers, which kind of hit me like a ton of bricks because there's so many resale platforms that are not shoes. So first of all, do you agree with that?
I don't know that I would limit it to sneakers. I'd sort of say it a bit differently, which is luxury and status, right? You can now buy a restaurant reservation in New York City because people want them and people have figured out how to consume them and resell them. Sneakers are the same. Nike has the sneakers app. You can sign up, you can buy a pair of sneakers, and you can resell them. I tried that recently as before the story broke, it just as I could do this as one of my kids, buy them. And guess what? You know what I did? I got them and I returned because I didn't want to go through the hassle. And by the way, it was a collaboration. And by the way, like the market that I thought would be made wasn't. And
you didn't get your recovery rate, you thought?
I didn't get my recovery rate. No. It was like the delta between like what my time was worth and what I was going to get was like negative.
Yeah. So, we're going to, speaking of some negative things happening, we have a lot of things coming up here. Flexport CEO recently tweeted in the last week that their NPS is the highest ever. Although it's a positive tweet, what the hell is a company that's raised $1 billion and supposed to be worth billions of dollars talking about their NPS score? Who gives a shit? Your response, Nick.
There's something about Flexport for you that is like the hot button. And I totally agree with you, by the way. I think we love to throw around the word sort of grift. And I don't want to say grift here necessarily, but yeah,
grift adjacent is a word I like to use.
Exactly. Those are good words. I say to my kids often 1 + 1 can't equal 3. In this case, 1 + 1 can equal 3 million.
Oh, right.
It's like,
that's a good quote. Yeah. I don't know how they're ever going to recover the valuation. I mean, it's just some technology on top of a dusty industry where at best it's a hedging company. And so you're talking about a financial instrument. At worst, it adds almost no value because you don't own any of the actual assets, except if you go to his Twitter profile, you'll see a picture of his plane.
Right. Exactly. It's like Compass is a technology company, not a real estate company. I think 100%. That these companies are amazing marketers. And we've learned that over the course of time that it isn't always the best product that works. Marketing is a key component, and he's clearly an amazing world-class marketer who continues to get like more than 9 lives at this point.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the story is, but Nick Coverdale seems to have a vendetta out for him. He seems to cover everything that Flexport does, and just pokes a red hot needle in his eye every week, it seems like. So anyway, moving on. Speaking of red hot things, Le Creuset.
Right. I mean, we talked a little bit about the show, both recipients, as many people I imagine, of this incredible brand, Le Creuset, as wedding gifts, which is often the case because Rick joked, you can't afford it. And that is true.
There's no Temu Le Creuset, put it that way.
Well, actually, there probably is a Temu Le Creuset. You just don't want to buy it. Look, I think it goes to show a couple things. They had a sample sale or a warehouse sale, and they created a traffic jam to the degree of which the police needed to be called. I think every brand would beg for that. So it tells us that if you really control the quality of your brand, it means something. That if you have a little bit of a pickle and need to move inventory, you can. And what the brand, value is. This morning, my wife said to me over breakfast, we believe in the family breakfast in the Kaplan household. We're talking about,
what was the family breakfast? Let's stop there for a moment.
It was a combination of many different things. The older daughter likes to have Nutella toast. The younger daughter, I think, went this morning with Frosted Flakes. I don't eat breakfast at home, and my wife goes to oatmeal. So, it varied. But what I will say is there was some talk about aloe, right? And aloe having really lately discounted a lot. And she said, why is that? And so I said to my children, like, where's the most money that a retail company has invested? And after social media was the first guess from the little one. the older one got inventory. So look, unclear why they had the sale.
The daughter of a merchant. Were you proud of her?
Yes and no. Like secretly, yes. Publicly, no. I'm like, listen, of all the things you can do, go in a different direction. AI, I think we had some chat about the Lex Friedman AI interview, right? I mean, the future is coming, and I don't think it's going to be friendly, but that's another conversation we'll have. But look, to close this one out before turning back to you, speaking of breakfast, will be, it's an amazing brand, but like, it says something that they did this and it garnered some news. So I think as we're on the precipice, in a lot of cases already in the selling period for holiday, like, keep an eye out.
Yeah, and again, Frosted Flakes, we're gonna need to up our game here for a second. Speaking of breakfast, I did have breakfast with Joe from Marketplace Pulse on Wednesday morning, and fascinating guy.
You did not have Frosted Flakes?
No Frosted Flakes. We actually sat at quite a nice cafe. I had eggs Benedict. He had salmon Benedict because he was missing New York City. He used to live here a while back, and now he lives overseas. He had a crushing comment for as part of our breakfast conversation, and he basically said he saw a headline about eBay, and eBay said the reporter said eBay's return to growth. He's like, okay, that's puzzling.
You got excited.
He got very excited. He went.
You got excited,
and then he went to the 10K, and he saw that they added 100 million in GMV, and he's like, "What the hell? That's a fucking rounding error." I mean, so who cares about eBay anymore? Thank you,
my friend.
Yeah, eBay.
I feel like all roads in Rick Watson world lead back to eBay. It's a running joke that community and Rick's history spawned this community. And I agree, though. eBay, I mean, 100 million, it's like, come on.
Yeah. Well, apparently all roads lead to breakfast in this podcast so far. So we're going to keep that going. We're excited about that. And we won't deny it. Breakfast is the important meal of the day.
It is. And I'm going to go home and say that Frosted Flakes are not an approved Watson consumable. But listen, eBay had their challenges. Guess who didn't have their challenges this week? We talked a bit about it.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on from the headline hangover. Thank you guys for sticking with us. If you have any comments, we're gonna talk about Shopify for a moment here. They had their earnings, and we did a special post-earnings podcast that we're gonna preview a little bit today. Breakthrough numbers. Enterprise is not just for breakfast anymore. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and excited about some of the questions that we're going to unpack. I think the first question is, like, can this be sustained? And like, you can hear about what we talk about on the show here. Yeah. So the high level is, like, the biggest top line number was that their operating income doubled year over year, which is kind of a mic drop moment, which doesn't happen very often. I think Amazon has been putting up similar results in, like, operating income and free cash flow due to their logistics improvement, but Shopify has been doing kind of similar work. The story is GMV growing mid-20s, between 24 and 26%, revenue growing in a similar vein, and operating expenses only growing 7% year over year. And so they're increasing things like sales and marketing costs by between 6 and 10%, and they're still growing faster than 25%. Those are good numbers that any company would love to hear.
So I think the question on everybody's mind then is going to be, and I'll start off with this one, is, I mean, how sustainable is Shopify's current trajectory? I mean, it's kind of freaky. You're going to answer that question, by the way.
I'm a little bit of
looking at us, and I'm like, is that us now, or is that us then?
Which Nick is the real Nick? Is it live or is it Memorex? That was the question I used to always like in the commercials.
Right. Staying on cue, because I think this is actually, it is a seminal question.
Did you get older since the clip?
I might have. Working with you, I mean, it's like, people don't realize, like, we're in the same offices. Like, it's like almost like this fraternity. It's not easy.
Is it sustainable? So look, the good news about Shopify, number one, is that they have a fantastic brand, one of the best brands in the world now. A lot of people know Shopify. And if you kind of listen to the stories of Shopify going public and raising money, no one knew who the hell Shopify was, even though they were powering a lot of brands. And that was something that Toby and the team had to overcome when they went to Silicon Valley. Everyone knows Uber. Everyone knows Airbnb. No one knew who Shopify was. And so I think that's definitely changed in the boardrooms across America from an e-commerce point of view. So that's, I think, one tailwind for Shopify. the next thing is that their competitors are on the struggle bus. And so you don't have to look farther than like the demise of Oracle. Adobe has made so many acquisitions. Are they really focused on commerce? Salesforce. We'll talk about Gartner in a moment and their questionable decision-making capabilities. So Shopify has quite a number of tailwinds that will keep this growth going, I think, over the next years.
I think Adobe is going to be like Sears. Imagine, right? Like Adobe was so big at one point. So, okay, let's go to a clip. Let's hear what we had to say. And I think that sort of opens up another question, which is, you talk about Shopify as an SMB, you talk about its movement up, and I think Salesforce's movement down. I've always thought it's easier to go up market than it is to go down market. Although it's both ways is filled with peril, but I mean,
right.
can we actually call Shopify now? Are you going to go on the record and say Shopify is an enterprise solution? I have a follow-up for you.
Yeah, I think.
I like this question.
Can I take the fifth?
No, I mean definitely not. Especially now you've had time to think about it.
First of all, you have a definitional problem. No two people you talk to have the same definition of what enterprise is.
Excellent.
Klaviyo calls enterprise customers customers that are above $400 million in revenue. The traditional private equity definition of enterprise, like when I was trying to understand, like, who should I target as a consulting company, I always found that mid-market ended about $1 billion in revenue and enterprise was above that. And that's generally for total enterprise value of a retailer across all channels, all revenue internationally. And so there's that, but just because a company makes a lot of money doesn't make them an enterprise company. That's the challenge I have with some of those.
So again, in fulfilling my role, we're going to keep moving along, but I want to say one thing. I think enterprise is becoming more of a mindset in how you like the complexity versus the GMV. I'll leave it at that.
So you can have a complex SMB company and Nick Kaplan says it's an enterprise. That Mr. Beast could be an enterprise company by that definition. Right. He seems like a complex character.
I think we can add this to another topic at some point. So let's go to our last clip because I want to get to our conversation today. I'm excited.
Let's do it.
All right.
I really think the hiring of the former, head of Microsoft Copilot and one of the leaders at Yandex, essentially the Russian version of Google, it's about the next generation of search, discovery, and AI. And I think Shopify views AI in a way, the same way that Amazon does, and that this is sort of like a once in a lifetime opportunity over the next 5 to 10 years to really change the trajectory of SaaS, merchant experience and customer experience. And we're just not going to build custom companies the same way 10 years from now than we did 10 years ago. I believe that Shopify saw that they needed to up level their, first of all, is this a plant comment? I was
just going to say, leave that comment up. Second, the Russian Google, so much in that. But I mean, just talk a little bit more. And then I want to ask you one more question before we get to our next segment, the best segment, but talk about what you just talked about.
Here's what I would say. Shopify is not going to underinvest in AI. One of the things I go back to is 2 years ago on an earnings call, no less. Toby Lutka, the CEO of Shopify, said that the biggest bet Shopify was placing was the vertical integration of logistics. Clearly, that didn't work out.
How'd that go?
When Shopify kicked that bet to the curb, in the same letter that they used to kick that bet to the curb was AI. And that was one of the reasons, if the company can't make a huge bet on AI, it will miss a generational shift in how software is built. And so we'll leave that here. We have exclusive footage on YouTube that you can find on the RMW Commerce channel. So we invite you to check it out.
So now we're going to transition to our third segment today, which is the most fun segment where we bring someone in. We have a conversation. So actually, I'm going to turn it back to you to actually introduce our esteemed guest, Paula.
Yeah, Paula Macaggi is an international superstar, creator of the OFFBounds Podcast. She's an advocate for global retail connections and innovation. She's interviewed some of the top retail leaders in the world, and I would like to understand what her frequent flyer status is, because every time I talk to her and listen to her podcast, which you should, it's OFFBounds. She'll talk about it when she comes on. You find out she's in a different country. And so I have a little frequent flyer envy from Paula, but welcome to the show. Glad to have you on.
Hi, guys. Thank you. I do have a lot of miles. I have to say that.
I mean,
don't rub it in too much.
To me, it's very important. When I travel with Rick, he's always like, whatever. I'm like, no, status matters.
Yeah,
like
Nick's a United guy. Yeah. I'm a Delta person. Where's your status?
I am Star Alliance. I'm the navigator.
So United. Yeah, United.
All right, 2-1.
So I stay at the United lounges usually because
they just had a big article drop in the Points guy about status changes. So, but for another topic.
Yeah.
So, Paula, thank you for joining us. You have spent time in a lot of countries. You just came back to Lisbon, which is where you are now, from Shanghai. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. First of all, how much time did you spend there? How was your experience?
It was about a week that I spent there. I had booked it for 2 weeks initially, and then I went to I decided to go for 1 week, and I totally regret it. I should have stayed for like a month or so.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I took like 3 days to walk around and see this. I was fully there for work and investigate our industry. So I didn't go to the China Wall or things like that, but I saw a lot of stores. I saw a lot of interesting aspects, a lot of QR codes, and But the day that I was going to go to Alibaba and another retailer, I had a typhoon, so I stayed stuck in my hotel.
Oh, wow.
And I had to leave, so I'll have to go back and check it out again.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I'm just so curious. I mean, there's so many questions to ask you, but I grew up in retail, like literally my family. Rick was an engineer, got into retail. I mean, you focus on our industry, which is an industry full of pain and highs and lows. But I mean, why? Like, how did you have this amazing podcast? You're getting access to incredible guests. You're doing a phenomenal job talking to them and educating us. And I want to hear about China, but like, how did you get here?
That's a good question. I was looking for a job, and I got a job at a media company that is focused on retail. And that was about 5 years ago. Yeah. And that's how I fell in love with the industry. First, it's an industry that we all understand from the consumer standpoint. Mm-hmm. So we all understand what is a good consumer experience, right? Like what is our journey when we are shopping, and how people are doing good and bad work. Mm-hmm. And then from talking to all the technologists and all the leaders throughout these years, I was like, I think we need a global perspective. Let's hear from other people from other countries. How much can you learn? Like sometimes a problem that the US is having now, it's a problem that Sweden has solved 5 years ago. Like, what are the technologies they use? So that's why I created OFFBounds, and I wanted to bring these different perspectives for everybody.
Yeah, it's so generous of you to say the US is only having one problem.
Let me get it started with Brazil then.
So, and again, I don't want to monopolize, Rick. I'm excited, but like, as you travel, I mean, and you talk to people and you talk about solving problems. I mean, how different is it from one country to the next? I mean, is retail is it an equation? I think, so many of us think about the successful retailers like Zara, right? Zara is an incredible equation. It's math. So I think hopefully we'll learn some of this about China and about differences, but like, talk about, is retail an equation?
I think like reducing it to just an equation would be getting too operational and less focus on the customer. And then I think like the part of the customer is more the magic part that can be put in math, you know? So I think, and I'm sure like you've seen this with Nike or with the Starbucks, when you get too focused on the equation, you lose a lot of what the customers like about you. So I wouldn't call it equation, but it varies.
It's fascinating because you bring up the equation question, and there's a debate you guys are having about retail is math, which of course it is, but it's not just math. Otherwise, a CFO would be in charge of designing clothing, which that person is not. We were talking before the show. There was a great quote from Sam Walton that said there are two types of retailers that are merchandising experts and retailers that are operations experts. I would almost debate that a little bit, because it seems like now you have retailers that are just marketing experts, but we'll leave that to the side for a second. Do you believe that's true? And how does that relate to the question about the consumer journey, and where do the issues lie with retailers that fall in one or both buckets?
Yeah, this quote came from Sam Altman book, and when he explains how he built Walmart and why he's successful, and he talks about the success part of Walmart by being focused on merchandising and giving people what they wanted for a very reduced price. So they would choose, they would look for merchandise to make that possible. So for the beginning of their journey, there were a lot more merchandise than operations. They didn't get the operations part. So I think that's the magic, right? They were more worried about serving the consumer than making the operations more efficient. And the operations, and he says that you can be a merchandise driven and always improve the operations, but it's very hard to be an operations driven and get the merchandising right. So I think, that's what he meant, and I think that's what we can see anywhere, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of debate in the industry about what is Amazon. Is Amazon a logistics company? Is Amazon certainly not a merchandising company? So they have access to a lot of merchandise. But I would love to transition to conversation as well and get to China, because you just spent a whole bunch of time there and you talked about the experience. And so just give us, forget about the bits and the bytes and everything, like talk about the vibe. Walking around the streets, what did you experience? What was different when you walked into the store from locals versus you there? Talk about that.
I felt everything was big. Like the size of the stores were big.
Yeah. Were you like a tourist looking up all the time?
And I was like all the time, like, oh, I think this is Champs-Élysées, like the equivalent of Champs-Élysées. Oh, this is probably their Fifth Avenue. But like every street was like that. I was like, oh, every store is big. Every feeling is like that, you know? And apparently they're so competitive that they have to wow the customers, otherwise the customers don't come in. So that's why I think it drives the innovation part of it, you know?
What was the biggest wow you experienced while you're on your trip? Like what was the store that just like stands out in your mind? You're like, wow, when I go back to Shanghai, I can't miss that store.
You'll be surprised, but I think it was Nike House of Innovation was the first store I walked into. So I think like for now, that's why I didn't have much expectation, because I've been to the one in New York, I've been to the one in Paris, and then I finally completed the three of them. And it just feels different. The communication in store is very good. A lot of QR codes, so everybody was checking their phone while they were engaging with products. A lot of descriptions and a lot of visuals. Everything was engaging, and it's just different. Like I think like they might go to New York and they'd be like, "That's it? This is what people think is nice."
You sound like my wife. About New York.
Yeah, but I was so wondering that all the time. I was like, do they go to New York and they'd be like, "Oh, is this New York? Like I have better home, you know?" So
so interesting.
We were getting stuck on breakfast earlier in the podcast, and tell me about your breakfast in China.
So that was tough. I am vegetarian, so I don't eat animals, and that's always a struggle when I go to China. There was one time that I was at the breakfast and I was exploring to try something local, and I asked the guy, "Oh, is this vegetarian?" He's like, "Yeah, just a little bit of pork, but it's vegetarian." I was like,
a
"Wow,
little bit. Yeah,
wow."
it's like saying that at a kosher deli or something.
Exactly. I was just thinking that too, as New Yorkers. Wait, Rick, you asked the question about technology and experience. I mean, as a retailer, as like a real, like, roll up your shirt sleeves kind of guy, like, were people carrying shopping bags? Like, are people shopping in China?
They
Like,
were
did you see
shopping
people
in
walking?
they were shopping in China. I don't think that was my first time, so I can compare to what it was 5 years ago, and I didn't feel that consumption that at all. Like, people were buying it, people were shopping, people were engaging. I don't know if you know how how they do the payment, but it's like a
Mhm.
unified payment experience. Everybody has an Alipay. I can show you to you
Yeah.
later, but like, it's basically, I think that was the most fascinating part. It's kind of unique. You point it, you pay.
The
You
digital
point it,
wallet,
you
right?
pay. It's incredible. It's incredible, and I think like it's pretty recent that foreigners can use in their app. So you can put your card in their app. Before, you had to have a Chinese account, and now it's super easy nowadays. I even shop online by scanning a QR code, which is super
As
cool.
a Star Alliance loyalist and a person who, sort of gets that component of things, I feel like in the American market, they've tried so hard to get the digital wallet there, and it just doesn't take hold. Do you feel like the loyalty component of things driving, like, what is it about the digital wallet in China? Because it seems to be just a massive driver of experience. Like, why there, not other places?
It's just a completely different ecosystem. It's I don't know, like, the way the consumer journey is different. Like, they don't have the brand's website where you shop. You go to another, like, it's
Right.
just different. So everybody communicates on WeChat. It's where you can send money to each other. That's where you can get a cab to go somewhere. That's where you can pay with. And
Right.
a few stores had like WeChat a WeChat experience, a WeChat mini program that you scan,
Mhm.
and within the app you're engaging with the store. Like, it's just,
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just like fascinating. It's just different, completely different than everything I've seen.
It's fascinating. I mean, it seems like wherever you go, I don't know if does it feel like the street just knows who you are? As you're walking down the street, you step into a cab, or you mention a Didi, you're being recorded. Things you're saying are being recorded. I swear, at home, if I say something and the Alexa is off, I'm going to see an ad on my phone. So I'm pretty sure I'm being monitored here in the US too, although that might change. But can you talk about the cultural attitudes in China from a legal and regulatory point of view versus, vis-a-vis like Europe and GDPR and American laws there? And
I met with many people, and I asked that to a lot of people. I was like, you don't have any problems, right? Like, I don't know. I tend to be a person that is very fine with giving my information away. Like, I don't get this so protective with like, oh, they're gonna know who I am.
yeah.
But there, I felt like a bit creepy, and I was like, no, Paula, you have to embrace it. I think, yeah, like, you walk into the cab and they have cameras. It's totally normal to be on the street where your favorite store is, and you get a notification showing that you have a discount. Paula, come in, we have something for you. You know, I think that adds to the experience. Also, when you are on Tmall, the discount that they show on what you're viewing is personalized for you and things like that. I think there's a component of not having so much concern with privacy that
Mhm.
can provide a better experience and provide a better service too. Like, imagine how many great things retailers could do if they could track everything.
Exactly.
But how
Exactly.
exactly, like,
When-
you want to give this
It's
experience,
like an
but can you?
advertiser's
I don't
dream.
know.
Exactly. But when you asked before, you said the street, I was thinking the street or the party wants to know, right? And I think that is, and would love to understand better, like, that fine line in your opinion, Paula, about the I'm one who gives all my private information away, right? I believe 1 million people already have my social security number. There's no harm in giving away details. Two-factor authentication has protected me to a degree which I can. But like, how do you think it here versus there or other versus there? I mean, how much of a factor is the party in it's just the way of life, right? So giving away all of your information, succumbing to the realities have been bolstered by or have been used to bolster the experience by retail companies and brands. Like, is that what it is? Like, talk about that. I mean,
well,
you know, you wanted a
you
latte before you walked in.
You feel observed by everybody.
Huh.
Let's say we are here talking about commerce, but you also know that people are checking you out, you know? So I got a train ticket to go to Beijing for one day. And, you know, the train ticket is your document. You can like, they don't ask for a ticket. They ask, what's your document? They check it. Oh, okay, you can go. You know, you feel every step to walk into a train station, to walk into the airport, to walk into like you have to show your document. So they know everybody that is there, and I'm sure there are a lot of cameras. They know who is walking where and how, you know. So
Yeah,
you're observed.
I remember
You
during
have to be used to
COVID.
that when you're there.
I remember during COVID, I had friends from China come visit, and literally like February 15th, 2020, like about 3 weeks before America realized COVID was a big deal. The Chinese, some Chinese friends were here, and they were looking at their app that it was green or red. You were a green person or a red person. If you were a red person, you were infected. You couldn't go certain places. You couldn't be within a number of feet from certain people. And it was all in the Chinese government hooked up with Ali. Like, all these systems are the same.
You know, a little known fact about Rick Watson, although it may be known, which I actually find to be this topic and an incredible continuing to grow topic, is Rick's wife, that she is a professor at Penn, and her topic is the ethics of engineering. And I think that, you know, do you look at the good of technology and what it can provide to us, or do you look at the sort of pervasiveness or intrusion? And I think that, you know, it is central to the future of the business, no matter what. And I'll use this actually, Rick, if okay with you and Paula. Like,
perfect. You
talk a lot about the future of the business, right? Like, transformation is your thing. So you just went to China. You just had firsthand retailer experience. Sorry. Talk about like what that means to you as you think about transformation and like big transformation, small transformation. I think we chat a bit about that.
Well, I feel everybody's transforming something. Like everybody that I'm talking to, yeah, but like there's a lot of my recent conversations, a lot of them, especially in the US, where a lot of turnarounds, comebacks, transforming, while in other places it's more like, oh, digitally we are transforming, but not the whole business. And I think like a lot of the conversations we've been having, and also in events, everybody's going to something like that they have to transform completely, from the brand perspective, from what is the merch that they're serving, who they're talking to, how they're talking to. So I think every transformation could be a very big transformation for every company, and very challenging for them, right? So you have the transformation on the balance sheet part of it.
Yeah.
Like, are you?
What was a guess that sticks out in your mind from a transformation? You're like, wow, that seems hard, what they're trying to do.
I think my favorite is Vera Bradley. So are you familiar with Vera Bradley?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, not everybody, like, it's very US, so not everybody's familiar, but Vera Bradley has been, I don't know, everybody's mom's necessary, you know? And now they wanted to connect with other people, more people. So they changed product, they changed logo, they changed website, they changed how they shop, they changed everything at once. And they're a public company, so that's the challenging part. Like, everybody's watching it. So
I think that's a really interesting Sorry, but I mean, I think Vera Bradley's super interesting. I'm pretty familiar. Is Vera Bradley transforming because they want to, or is like Vera Bradley transforming because they have to? And how much of a factor is that with the people you talk to?
That a question that always appears in my mind when I'm thinking is like, when did we stop to transform? You know, like when did we realize when was the time that we woke up and we're like, oh wow, like we became an old thing, you know?
Right.
Yeah, like we need to change completely. And that's, I think, like someone has to give this spark, right? And usually it's the change of the leadership. The board realizes like, oh, I think if we're declining for 5 years, consecutive years, we need to change. So they bring someone to do that transformation. That's when they change the leadership. That comes with a different approach. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. Look at Nike.
Yeah.
And like, see when Nike realized that they're not cool anymore. Was this year? Like they have been on this path for like 4 years.
But I guess like that's a really good point, because applaud Nike for going after it, but to you just hit the nail on the head, which is it took you 4 years to realize it wasn't working.
Yeah, like because I think like the first years when they were like focusing on the products that are winning, like yeah, let's just serve them Air Jordans and Air Max and they're good. That was working, and then people were like, oh, fine, I don't want
What's
this anymore.
next?
And they had nothing.
Yeah.
It had nothing next. So you
Not
know,
StockX.
It kind of goes
too
back.
operational and not to merchandising.
It kind of goes back to innovation pipeline. And if you talk to Nike, if you're Nike, your product is not your technology. Your product is your shoe. And if people don't think your shoe is cool or interesting, it doesn't matter if the shoe's materials haven't changed. If the consumer doesn't think your shoe is cool or interesting anymore, and that something changes about it every couple of years to keep it top of mind, then they're dead.
Yeah, and then like you see these other brands that they're being called the challengers, right? Like this Hoka, even Lululemon, like they're coming like and getting so much market share because they're just coming with cooler stuff.
But I think that's so interesting, because Nike solved a problem, right? Like that's where it started. You needed a running shoe. And you evolve forward. It's like the 84 Olympics. I think it was 80 or 84 in LA, where they're like, if you're not a gold medal athlete, we don't want you. And that Nike became a media company. And then where it aired is it tried to become a data company.
Yeah.
That's why they brought in JD.
Yeah. I mean, it's look, suddenly you wake up, you're the son of a merchandising family. You're gaining all this retail experience, and then one day you're wearing open-aired Hokas around the office. I mean,
I get a lot. So Paula, just so you know,
do you have Hokas?
Yeah, I do. I could put up my shoes right now and show you if you wanted. But
I
mean, the power of
this is not a recommended approach on the podcast.
So but again, like this is the beauty of brand as media and what retail today is from a mathematical perspective. I'll go back to it. It's like media plus data equals commerce. I love PayPal. I not like PayPal. I love Peloton. Peloton is truck drive follow. Gets paid by Zappos to do 7 days of shoes. I see the shoes for recovery. I buy a pair because they're $50, and I get them on Zappos because they're there tomorrow. I like them, and I'm like, wait, we have an office. It's a beautiful office. There's not that many people in it, and I bought my Hokas for the office. And since then, Rick has been giving me a hard time. But I do believe that's how it works.
I'm just gonna timestamp for the audience. Friday, November 15th, 2024 is the day Nick revealed his shoes on the podcast and killed the podcast for all future.
For the record, listen, there's Paco Underhill.
They're so freaking comfortable, though. They're so comfortable.
Paula is going to be like our next Paco Underhill. So I felt it necessary to give, as a retail anthropologist 2.0, I felt it necessary to give her all the information. There are people watching, they got to know something, which is like, what is retail tomorrow? And that's kind of it. Right? I mean,
what product cycle, product innovation, merchandise, connecting with your consumers.
look, a lot of what we work on with people is it's like a few things, but a lot of it is about like the ability. And I think this is where, going back to earlier, Shopify wins. It's like complex commerce, solving every problem. No, better done than perfect's okay. It's commerce anywhere and everywhere. And I think that's what you experienced in China, which is like, so
is the marketing good? As you talk to chief marketing officers, this will be the last question we have, is like, where is the head of the CMO now? Like, what are they thinking about that they need to do? Because it's a tough job. It seems like there's turnover every 2 years in any CMO in any company.
I think it's the toughest job, probably.
Sure.
I think everybody's trying to be more creative with their message, right? Like, in how they're gonna deliver and connect with consumers. I think a lot has been thought on the community side, but how do you develop this community? How do you engage with this community? And that's on the CMO. Yeah, right. Like, how do you propel this message in every action that the company has? That's the CMO job to foment the right message. And they have a tough one because customer acquisition costs. You need a strategic loyalty program to communicate better with the consumers. There's just so many layers that they have to worry about.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to be in their shoes, but I can really admire their work.
No, it's a tough job.
I'll say one thing. My dad told me as a young merchant starting out, you never want to be the GMM because the target's always on your back. Today, you never want to be the CMO because the target's always on your back. It's changed.
Yeah, so the shift from the merchant to the marketer is where the bullseye has moved. So
totally.
If you don't have a good marketer, your brand is dying slowly.
But if you don't have a good product, it doesn't matter if you have good marketing. This
is true, because these products, at the end of the day, they're kind of the same.
Yeah. What was the marketing of Hoka, Nick?
Hoka's everywhere. There's a line to get into the store here.
This is a Rorschach test. This is a Rorschach test for Nick right now. I want to see what his answer is.
I think it was Hoka is about adoption and building trust through influencers and permeating the market and using content and using the fashion component and the functionality to challenge Nike, which is like Nike's biggest challenge.
So. Yeah, and own too. So this is a spoiler. This is the topic of my next episode. It's going to be how the running community can teach us about community-based marketing.
100%.
You heard it here first. Hoka on community-based marketing, the OFFBounds podcast. We are going to talk a little bit about holiday video for a second. We're going to bring you back. Hope you brought your dancing shoes, not Hoka's, for the record. I'm not sure if Nick could dance in those. So I don't know if you know, we dance at the end of all of our shows. And so we're going to go off for a couple of minutes and then pull you back on. So thank you so much. It was lovely to have you here. You're the best guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think the audience probably remembers from years past, years past, what we do. Want to tell them? Around the holidays,
what do we do? First of all, the audience is gone after the shoe came out. Let's put that on the table.
I know that you guys are sitting here,
not the Hoka on the table.
You guys are sitting here saying, "How did Jess have to travel today?" Thank you, Jess, for allowing me the opportunity to be here.
Number two, we have a new segment that we started the last couple of weeks on the Watson Weekend, and we're going to show our favorite holiday video commercials. They don't have to actually go on linear TV for them to show up here. YouTube is or TikTok is quite sufficient. So this week we're going to pull an ad, which to me is a little reminiscent of Elf on the Shelf, but it has an Australian flair. And so we're going to pull that up here. I'm excited to. Yeah, Gremlins.
Enjoy it. Oh, wait, where's our ad? That was that ad. If the ad is going to be me with a Santa hat on, we've got a problem. Although I am jolly.
No, we're running it now, and it's from the Outback.
Outback Steakhouse brings you Koala on the Walla.
Koala, koala, so sad days with koala. A cute marsupiala who watches and knows Allah.
Don't mind me, just observing your every move.
This is a freaky
Someone-
commercial. It's creepy.
Someone got
creeped out.
paid to write this jingle.
This is a creepy
If
freaking
you're
koala.
naughty, you don't get
Let's
any
hope-
steak.
If you're naughty, you don't, but it goes, and that's where it starts to go south, right?
Right.
Like, exactly.
A
Penny
few
Ruxpin
speeding
or
tickets too.
Chucky. It's like, he turns into Chucky.
It's in the koala's in the can there.
You should
It's
probably
borderline
get
a
a lawyer.
crime.
I'd say koala the informer.
It's like, lawyer up. Right? I mean, like,
Who wrote this?
I don't know, but it makes you want to leave the office now and go get a steak at Outback.
Did you see on the wall there was a poster saying "Live, Laugh, Steak"? That was like
No.
that's
I
what
mean,
you call a
therein lies-
subliminal message, Nick.
Therein lies the difference between you and I, right? That you're seeing that. So,
You saw it, but the marketer, there was a CMO somewhere that put that on the wall.
you know,
Going
well,
back
you know who's
to our
not
earlier
coming. You know who's not
conversation.
going to be a guest on Paula's podcast? The CMO and the creative people at Outback Steakhouse.
Wow, I could have them and ask you, what was that?
Exactly.
I agree.
All right, here we
So-
go.
It's dancing time. Thank you guys for listening. We're gonna be back next week. Bye.